back 10 years from now and our AI initiatives and programs succeeded, it's because we focused on the fundamentals and we leveraged young talent to do it.
Hi, I'm Jason Manship, host of Authentic and Agentic. Every week on this show, we break down what's happening in AI and what it means for how we work, lead, and live. Join me for a human-focused conversation that keeps you ahead of the curve. This is the Authentic and Agentic podcast on the IBJ Media Network.
Welcome back to the Authentic and Agentic podcast. This is where we stay human while navigating a world being rapidly reshaped by AI. I'm your host, Jason Manship, and I'm really glad you're here. This week, we're diving into the talent conversation, specifically how AI is impacting college graduates here in the state of Indiana. Not in a theoretical way, but in a very real, very practical way. What skills matter now? How should students, employers, and educators be thinking about the next few years? But before we go there, every week I like to help you cut through the noise. There's a lot of AI headlines out there, and I help pick the ones that matter. So this is my top AI headlines segment, where I focus on AI news that really should matter to you, not just what's loud on social media. So let's start with one that really genuinely surprised me. Just last week, Disney announced they're investing in OpenAI. I want to be specific here because I think the details really matter. According to OpenAI's own announcement, Disney characters and worlds are coming to Sora, which is their Gen video app, as part of the agreement. That's a real shift. This isn't hypothetical, and it's not just about internal productivity tools. What is important is to understand how this actually works. And so this is a licensed, controlled creative environment. Disney is not opening its entire IP catalog to a public free-for-all. Access, usage, and distribution are still going to be governed by Disney's rules, approvals, and business objectives. Think curated experiences and sanctioned creative experiments, not unrestricted remix culture. And here's why this is so fascinating to me. So if you've been following along ever, Disney is one of the most IP protective companies on the planet. Their entire business is built on storytelling, characters, and emotional connection. If there were ever a company with every incentive to say no to Gen AI, it's probably Disney. Yet here they are, leaning in. So, many people in the creative community see AI as a monster that steals creativity, undercuts artists, and flattens originality. And that concern is real. I'm not dismissing it. But I'm also not here to pick a side. What I am watching closely is how creators, both massive studios like Disney and small independent artists, are responding to the same reality. AI exists, and it's not going away. Every creative organization now has to make a decision about its future. Ignore it, fight it, or engage with it intentionally. Disney's decision tells us something important. Even companies whose value is rooted entirely in creativity believe there is a way to use AI without surrendering authorship, identity, or control. That doesn't mean the tension just magically goes away. It doesn't mean the risks go away, but it does mean the conversation is far more nuanced than just AI versus creativity. What we're seeing play out in real time is a negotiation, where creators decide where AI is allowed to help and where the line absolutely must be drawn. This next story ties directly in today's main deep dive topic about jobs and talent. So there's been a lot of fear-ridden coverage about AI and employment. I've seen stats that maybe 50% of jobs are gone in the next few years. And I want to be careful here because the picture isn't settled, but I did find this new news today, actually. It just launched this morning, just came out this morning, and I found it super fascinating. A brand new global survey from Teneo, which is a CEO consultancy, shows something somewhat counterproductive. A majority of public company CEOs are saying that they're expecting entry-level hiring to actually go up. And now, while that might sound contradictory, let's look a little closer. So CEOs are saying that the jobs aren't really disappearing, they're being redesigned. Tasks that used to define junior roles are being automated, but new expectations are emerging alongside them. There was another report that came out from former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, openly acknowledging that AI can now perform production-level coding, work that just a few years ago would have been squarely on the hands of junior developers. So as we look through these two kind of converging points, what's really happening? I don't think this is a story of elimination. I think it's a story of compression. One person paired with the right AI tools can now do the work that once required a small team. That raises the bar for entry-level roles, but it also creates opportunity for people who can think critically, frame problems well, and supervise AI systems instead of competing with them. I think the takeaway for me, and we'll talk about this more with Sally, is for graduates, is don't panic. Here's the nugget. I think the floor has moved, but I think the ceiling has risen. The winners won't be the people who simply know the tools best. They'll be the people who understand the domain, ask better questions, and can operate confidently in systems where AI is a collaborator. And that has massive implications on how colleges teach, how employers hire, and how students prepare. For our third story and final story of the news segment this week, just last week, December 11th, President Trump signed an executive order called, quote, Ensuring a National Policy Framework for Artificial Intelligence. The intent is to establish a unified federal approach to AI governance, discouraging a patchwork of state-by-state AI laws, creates an AI litigation task force, and pushes agencies toward what the order calls a minimally burdensome national standard while engaging Congress on future legislation. And here's my take. In general, I don't think the government's super great at building technology. I'm not sure it's their job. I think that they should protect us, they should ensure fairness, and frankly, they should get out of the way. That said, there is a real problem when you have 50 states all attempting to regulate emerging technology differently. We've already seen this with online privacy, where fragmentation creates confusion and often hurts small businesses more than it helps consumers. Next week on the show, I talk with Brian McGinnis, an IP lawyer from Barnes & Thornburg, who makes this exact point, that a lack of coordination can be just as damaging as overreach. So I'm watching this federal move with cautious interest. I don't love the idea of consolidating too much power in the swamp, but I do think there's a legitimate conversation to be had about national guardrails that create clarity instead of chaos. It helps small businesses understand the rules of engagement. And here's where I'll be personally leaning in at the state level right here in Indiana. So I'm working with a local policy organization, ITIA, that works alongside local leaders and legislators to help them think about technology, and in this case specifically AI, not as something to fear or overregulate, but as something to understand, guide, and responsibly enable. In an upcoming episode, I'm sitting down with various members of the ITIA committee to talk through how the state of Indiana should be thinking about AI regulation. And like most things on the topic of AI, it still feels like the top of the first inning. This conversation really is just getting started. That's it for news from this week. We'll take a quick break and come back with Sally Reasoner. She is the VP of Talent at TechPoint, and we're going to dive deep into a conversation about the talent pipeline right here in Indiana. Indiana's digital economy is changing fast, and TechPoint is helping lead the way. TechPoint drives Indiana's digital economy through talent, innovation, and community. Their new report, AI-Driven Skills for Indiana's Economy, explores how AI is reshaping our workforce. It's built for employers, educators, and job seekers who want to understand which skills are most in demand in our state's rapidly evolving economy. Download it today at techpoint.org/AI skills. We're about to jump into a great conversation with Sally Reasoner, VP of Talent at TechPoint. But before we do, I want to frame why I believe TechPoint really matters. When I first got involved in the Indiana tech scene back in the early 2000s, there was a ton of energy and a lot of people hustling to create the next big thing. But as I look back on it, most of that energy looked and felt somewhat the same. Weekly meetups, founders in a room, pizza, beer. Now, that season was important, and I don't want to discount it at all, but over time it helped me see something clearly. Energy alone doesn't compound, infrastructure does. And that distinction is why I believed then, and believe now more than ever, that TechPoint truly matters. When I first met the former CEO, Mike Langelier, it was clear that he understood early on that real longitudinal change doesn't come from meetups alone. It comes from connecting the entire system. Universities, enterprise companies, startups, non-tech businesses, and yes, government. TechPoint supports founders and startups, but they also work directly with companies like Salesforce and Eli Lilly. They're embedding across higher education institutions statewide. They have real relationships at the state level. They are the connective tissue that ties Indiana's digital economy together. This is why work like their new AI skills report really matters. It's not just commentary, it's coordination, it's connective tissue, it's generational. And before we get into my discussion with Sally, I do want to maybe go one layer deeper. Behind the scenes, TechPoint is governed or part of, I don't know the term there, but Central Indiana Corporate Partnership, CICP, which is a nonprofit that supports economic development across industries in the state of Indiana. The most recent CEO at TechPoint, Ting Guti, is leaving on December 31st to lead CICP's cross-industry efforts for digital transformation and statewide AI adoption. This is super encouraging. CICP is investing in this vision, and I'm really excited to see Ting drive this. Thank you to CICP for decades of behind-the-scenes leadership. Thanks to the team at TechPoint for years of continued investment in the tech ecosystem. And I think if you talk to any tech leader or successful founder, they too will point to TechPoint and CICP for all the work that they've done. Thanks to TechPoint for sponsoring this podcast and all you've done to support the humans that make Indiana the place that my wife and I choose to live. And all right, let's get to our conversation with my friend, Sally Reasoner. Sally.
Jason.
How excited are you to be here?
I'm thrilled.
You seem like it. I'm really excited for this. So you and I have worked together in the past. I don't even know, like 8, 10 years ago?
More?
12, 15? Okay, it's been a while. That's great. So we got connected at TechPoint. That's where I met you. You were working at the time like assistant to the regional manager or something like that. I don't remember your exact title, but something in that reign.
Yes.
You were the doer, doing all the things behind the scenes and making all the stuff happen.
That's right.
And for me, our real first connection was the Extern program. So tell me about the Extern program.
Okay. The Extern program is, so when I think of Extern, it's an internship program at the surface. But really what it is it's a story of Indiana and the community here. And so I'll start with some context on Extern and how it got started, where it came from, and then a little bit about the evolution we've seen in it over the past decade. So I joined the TechPoint team in 2013.
So 12 years ago. Okay.
2013.
Okay, yep.
With Mike Langelier.
Oh, yeah.
And we were both Orr Fellowship alums. So we learned early in our careers about the theory of change here in Central Indiana. And essentially the theory of change for the Orr Fellowship, as I have come to know it, my language, is let's play to our strengths as a community. Let's not talk about what we don't have, but focus on what we are best at. And that's community. That's why Orr Fellowship was able to win top graduates to stay, work, live in Indiana.
Yeah.
It's why I'm in Indiana is by virtue of the Orr Fellowship. And Extern is built on that same theory of change. And it started in 2013 when Mike, Amin Brar, Kim Keene, Matt Tyner, Shelley Towns, MT Ray from Salesforce, we had a dream of we want to be a magnet for top tech talent. And at the time, people were talking about all of the things Indiana didn't have.
Right.
And
mountains and beaches.
You got it.
Yeah.
And our theory was we had just had some really big exits in the community. Capital was flowing. There was so much energy around startups and innovation. Let's sell that. Let's sell community. Let's sell friendship in a way that it had never been sold to technical talent before. And so I hit campus, and this was 2013. First class was in 2014. And the theory behind Extern was let's pull everyone together for the course of a summer, have software developers, computer science students living together. That was an essential component, providing housing for a 10-week internship, and then working at companies across the city. And at the time, the problem we were solving was there were not enough people to keep up with the incredible
the company's
growth.
Needs, yeah.
Exactly. And now that I've come back to TechPoint over a decade later, so I left TechPoint in 2016, came back just a few months ago, and the problem is different now. And I think it's a testament to the evolution of the tech community where we could not keep up with demand.
Yep.
And now we see the inverse of that, where there are more computer science, software engineering, informatics graduates than there are positions. And so we're having to rethink what Extern looks like and how
I
bring
want to
experience.
dig in that, right?
Yeah.
That's a big part of our conversation today. But the part that I want to start with is you said you brought all these externs, these interns together and had them live together on campus.
Yep.
The part that really opened my eyes for the first time in that experience was how community focused that was. You were building kind of cohorts or groups of students that became friends, and they were from colleges all over the country. They weren't just Indiana colleges, right? But they're doing events together. So talk just a little bit about the programming and some of the stuff that went into that to kind of hook them, so to speak.
Absolutely. Again, built on the model of the Orr Fellowship, we can do more together than we could individually. So a company could build their own internship program and have some social events every now and then.
And the big companies do.
Yeah,
right?
the big companies do.
Yep.
That's right. But when you pull interns together from the startup, so at the time, I think you had one extern at a time.
Yeah.
Austin, remember him?
Oh, yeah, Austin's
perfectly.
Great.
And so the thought was, let's pull together these companies that might only have capacity for one intern and build a sense of community around Central Indiana. And so we did professional development programming. This was in the era of hackathons. So we did a lot of hackathons together. We participated in the Indy Civic Hack, which was a hack for good at the time. Social programming, getting them out, exploring the city, and that still holds true. So Extern today, we do 3 big programming weekends in addition to the social connectivity that happens over dinner in a shared apartment on IUPUI's campus. But yeah, building that fabric of community is essential to the program and having it be a place-based recruitment strategy as well.
And I mention this on every episode. We call it authentic and agentic because it's about human side. And so I had, I think, 3 or 4 different extern groups that we, I don't know if sponsors the term, or partnered with you guys at TechPoint to have a student, in some cases 2. And it was such an experience for us because they got to go do the TechPoint, the extern stuff at nights and weekends. And then during the day they were here and they were the best of the best. I mean, these are people, frankly, that my little company couldn't really afford to keep because they were so good. Now, I know that that's part of the vision, right? To attract and retain these folks.
It is.
In today's world, are you finding, like, what's the appetite from employers? Are you looking for more employers to participate in that program? What does that look like for you right now?
We are.
Okay.
We've seen a shift.
Okay.
We've seen a shift in how companies are hiring. Extern at its peak, probably 2022. Again, there wasn't enough supply to meet demand.
Yep.
And now that equation has shifted. I think really where this got onto the map was a New York Times article published earlier this year that featured a Purdue student who was a computer science grad and couldn't find a job, so was interviewing at Chipotle. That was the headline in the New York Times. Yes. And to me, that was right before I came back to TechPoint. So to read that headline, it really surprised me because I had been out of the tech space for a little while. I was working for a privately held family-owned company at the time. Yeah. And to read that headline was so shocking. And as you dig a little bit deeper into the data, I saw a recent stat that big tech companies, the FANG companies, their early in career hiring has been cut in half from 5 years ago. 50% decrease. From Meta, Amazon, the large companies. So
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So 12 years ago, it was the brain drain. It was everybody leaving Indiana because there's no mountains or beaches.
That's right.
Right? And now we have great employers in Indiana, sounds like, that aren't hiring, or maybe there's too many graduating students. Like, walk me through what you're seeing there.
I think that's where AI comes in. Okay. I think it's hard to pull apart in this moment. Is it AI? Is it a broader economic issue?
Sure. I've made that same point.
We still have to better understand what's happening in the economy. But for software developers in particular, AI, they've been on the cutting edge of this. Yeah. And so you see mid-level, senior-level developers just having massive capacity gains by using AI. And so it's hit that workforce in particular hard.
Yeah, let me give you my take on who I've talked to. So most mid to senior level software folks that I speak with it's probably the most polarizing group when it comes to AI of any industry that I talk to. Some love it and think that it is a 5-10x improvement and their capacity and their capabilities go up. Others are fearful of it, right? Because it feels like it's taking my job or it's replacing me or whatever methodology comes in there. And so I talk to folks in a bunch of different industries, and the software folks in particular seem to either really embrace it and lean in or are slower to adopt because it's kind of touching on, what makes them unique or special in their career.
That's right. I think my vantage point on that from the conversations I've had with former externs and developers is it's a tool they have to use, but it's just okay. It doesn't replace the human brain. It's like the earliest in career developer, that's the quality they can get. And there's still a lot of review that needs to be done.
Yeah, I teach a vibe coding class where I teach non-technical folks how to build with AI, right? Using tools like Replit or Cursor or some of these tools that exist. And you can get to MVP in record time. But the moment you try to flip the switch and turn it into a, enterprise level piece of software, it's going to fail and you're going to have hard times. And so I think the people that appreciate and understand that are using it to prototype faster. They're using it to do some of the parts of the job they don't want to do. It's kind of similar to, having it critique or write my emails for me, right? It does 80% of it and I have to clean it up. If I'm writing software code, I can also have AI analyze my code and document it and do the things that it needs to do. But I'm not trusting it to just go build an application and ship it, right? So I think that's important to really understand. And so let me ask this question. So I've heard news, national news too, where I think Meta came out and said that they're not hiring a lot of entry-level developers, right? What are Indiana companies actually looking for? So in those early career folks, one concern I have is that you can't have senior level developers if you didn't have junior level developers, right? And so someone has to grow into that space.
That's right.
So what are employers looking for right now?
I think this has been a really interesting shift since I've come back as well.
Okay.
Again, being gone for 10 years almost, and coming back into this field. The conversation 10 years ago was strictly focused on programming languages. Students are not learning Ruby on Rails. Students are not learning whatever the new programming language of the day was.
Flavor du jour.
Yes, they're learning Java, and that's not going to cut it in our workforce.
Which is real. And part of that, just to touch on that, I tried to study coding in college. Now, I went to Ball State, which is not, at the time, wasn't one of the leading.
They have a good program now.
I understood, right?
Yeah.
But I was teaching myself. And in that moment, I found that what I was learning in the classroom was slow, right? It wasn't current because it's hard for academia to keep up in some of those places.
Absolutely.
I think academia is figuring that out and realizing they have to be on the cutting edge because the stuff moves so fast.
Agreed.
So I think you're saying, and that's why you said it's probably a different program now, right? Because people are moving, they have to.
That's right.
Their job is to prepare students for the workforce.
That's right.
And they see that trend and that shift, and it's moving quick.
And employers are noticing that because the conversation is no longer, I need this specific programming language or this specific technical skill. It's much more focused on the tacit knowledge that's typically learned by doing.
Yeah.
It's project management, communication, those durable skills, they're now called. I had soft skills in my head. Now the language has shifted to durable skills, but that's what I hear from employers. And so what I've been focusing on as I've gotten back is for so long in the workforce development space, you talk about the skills gap. What is the exact technical skill that this individual needs to know to get the job? And while that's still true in some of the IT roles and specific roles, for the most part, what I'm seeing is not necessarily a skills gap, but an experience gap. Employers are looking for real-world application of what the individual is learning in school.
I want to come back to that.
Yeah.
And maybe this unpacks that a little further. So you guys did an AI talent report. I don't know the exact title of a skills report or something to that effect, right? So it's a great PDF document. I share it regularly. And I tell folks it's really required reading to understand the state of the world in Indiana. So talk to me a little bit about what that says and maybe some of the insights from that. Maybe you're already hitting some of those points through this kind of natural conversation, but it feels like there's some additional details there that are worth exposing.
Yeah, I think core takeaway is we have to adopt. I sit at the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership, CICP.
Yep.
We're an economic development initiative at heart, or organization at heart. And in order for our businesses to keep up, we have to adopt emerging technology. It was Gen AI, now agentic, and we have to keep up. Otherwise, states around us will be able to produce things better, faster, cheaper.
Sure.
Using new technology.
It's a national race. You hear about that, right? Trying to beat China and others. But it's also a state race, and that's an economic challenge.
It is.
Keeping folks employed and building great progress in our state is that.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And so that was clear in the report. But what was interesting is we surveyed employers and asked them, we had over 100 employers respond. We asked them, what are you feeling in this moment? What challenges keep you up at night? And up until maybe last year, I feel like the number one challenge was always talent. Will we have enough qualified people to fill the jobs that we need to grow? And that has flipped. Now, by far, the biggest challenge that employers are facing is the pressure to adopt emerging technology.
That is wild.
Which is why TechPoint is adapting in that way. We see this moment. There's so much information. It's information overload everywhere you turn,
100%.
Which is why we are so excited to partner on this podcast. It's something to cut through the noise and give clarity. But and that's what TechPoint's going to focus on. But that was a surprise to me because talent felt like the easy thing to point at. And now I think there was some real reflection of, okay, there's a lot of pressure on us to adopt. How do we do this? I heard you talk with Jim Brown about actually it was in the prelude to the podcast.
Yeah, the McKinsey report.
The McKinsey report, where you talked about the companies that are doing this best are not the ones automating current workflows. They're completely redoing workflows. And that is hard transformation to create.
Well, one of the reason I call my game store Moonshot, I found this video from the Google X Lab, some of the biggest thinkers in the world out at Google X. And in this video, they talk about how, as an engineer, if you're tasked with getting a car to go 50 miles to the gallon, you can kind of tweak and change some things and you can probably get there. But if you need to go 500 miles on a gallon of gas, you have to start all over.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as just tweaking a thing or two.
I was just listening to Josh Burson. Okay. He's an AI influencer I follow in the HR space. I just listened to a podcast episode from him where he talked about why Tesla is falling behind in driverless or automated driving.
Yep. FSD.
Because Waymo came in and built it completely different. Their system of operating assumes no driver. So it removed the preconceived notion of
that there was one.
Yeah.
So instead of figuring out how to slowly do it, right? So let's play that out a little bit. That's encouraging and concerning, right, in the job market. There's all these reports, and we're not going to solve this on today's podcast, right? There's all these reports that, 5 years from now, half of all jobs won't exist anymore, right? There's deep conversations around how does humanity survive an economic change like this, right? The part that I keep thinking about is what can we do today and where can we be building? And so I spent a career trying to change the world. I went to Washington, D.C., got deep into national politics, did all these big things. And what I found was that the change I actually want to make is in my neighborhood, right? It's in my home. Yeah. And for me, Indiana is home. And I want to make my economy and my community and my people better. And so as you think through that, what does that look like? You've got AI is reshaping entry-level jobs, right? Yeah. What should a brand new grad do right now to make themselves prepared for that change that we all see coming?
Yeah. I think now more than ever, I think this has been a theme for a while, but I think now more than ever, students not only need to learn, but they need to apply. And what they're learning in the classroom is an excellent foundation, but it's not enough. And so my husband actually, he works in tech and he's so good at this. And he's what he is best at. It's truly his superpower is looking at a process and breaking it down into discrete components.
Okay.
Whereas I'll just do something and I'll think, I don't know how I did it. I just did it. And he's able to look at it. He's computer science by trade.
He's built that way.
He's built that way.
Sure.
And so I asked him because he is the best at keeping up with new technology. And he's vibe coding apps for our family. He's
Love it.
doing all sorts of interesting things. And I asked him, how do you do this? And he broke it down into a formula, which now I want to tell to everyone because I think students need it. You have to start with trusted influencers who I think this podcast is a great place to start. So parents, if you're listening to this, share it with your kids or share this formula with them because it will be critical to their success. So find an influencer that you like. I love, Jason, how you're using YouTube after these episodes. I watched the one you did on news and how you consume news and use AI tools to do that. Watch those. Lenny, Josh Burson, find the influencer in the field that you like, practical AI.
Yeah, great.
Find the influencer, learn about what emerging technology they are experimenting with, and do it on your own.
Yeah.
Work on a project, vibe code an app. You have to put it into practice.
And most of it's either free or $20, right? I mean, you're not spending $1 million to do this stuff. You can go set up a Lovable or a Replit account for $20 and go build something for fun.
And use AI to support you. I mean, I think when we talked to students years ago, it was you have to think of a project. AI can help you think of a project now. Use that and build something with it. Because when my husband interviews for jobs, which he hasn't in a little while, but when he's interviewed for jobs, he talks more about his personal projects than what he's done in his last position.
Makes total sense.
And he gets jobs because of that.
I'm sure.
And so that's the formula. But then also I really encourage people to break out of doing it alone. Join a community where this work is happening, like-minded individuals. TechPoint has the AI Innovation Network across the state of Indiana.
I've been to that event, and it's awesome.
And you just learn so much more when you can say, hey, I built this. Beat it up. What thoughts do you have? How can I make it better? And bringing in that human component of it. And so those events are free. Join them. Join the community. And I'm sure there are others like that across the state. And I think turning learning into practice and then joining a community of like-minded individuals who are passionate about the same thing or can give you feedback and at the same time build your network, that's the winning formula.
As an employer, a couple things I've always thought of. Number one is I want lifelong learners. I want people who will outgrow me, right? I want people who are going to just be builders and go do things. I think that's really important. I also want people who will teach me things, so people that are on that bleeding edge or at least leaning into it, right? I don't want to have to bring you in and have to teach you how to do everything. And maybe to circle back to the conversation you said about 12 years ago is about the specific skills. I think companies are becoming more platform or technology agnostic as time goes on.
Completely.
Right? It used to be we only code in this language and you have to learn our way and here's the SOP and you have to do it. And I think they're learning that the world is moving so much faster that I tell folks all the time, like a 10-year strategic roadmap is just unreasonable. Yeah. No one knows what the future is going to look like in 10 years.
No.
My daughter's 12, and I'm convinced that in 4 years, she may not drive when she gets her driver's license.
That'd be great.
I know, it'd be wild. It'd be awesome.
That'd be fun.
Just put her in a car and send her off, right? And so, I mean, I don't know where that goes. So we looked at the student side of that equation. What should employers do next? So let's flip it. If you were speaking to any employer in the state of Indiana, from big enterprise to small business, and maybe the answer is different depending on where they are, but what's one thing or what's something maybe that they should start doing tomorrow to better attract and retain early career talent? It's an AI accelerating world. I know that they're slowing down maybe some of their hiring, but the best companies like the Indianapolis Colts, I mean, they're always trying to take the best person off the board regardless of position, right? That was Bill Polian's strategy for many, many years. And so how do companies think like this?
I think seize the moment. There's never been a better opportunity than right now to hire
the best.
And with big tech hiring slowing, we have unprecedented access to top-tier talent.
Because they're not going to Meta and Google.
That's right. And we have incredible universities here. Rose-Hulman, Purdue, DePauw, Wabash. I mean, Franklin College, these universities are incredible and they are producing amazing students and graduates. And my advice, especially to small and mid-sized companies, seize the moment now. An intern is a $12,000 investment. $12,000. And they're digital natives, so you're going to get an incredible output.
Yep.
Incredible. So there's value in and of itself for hiring them for 10 weeks to do work for your business and produce outcomes for your business. And they're more capable than ever with AI by their side.
Right.
And it solves the experience gap. And so
giving them that hands-on.
That's right.
So use a tool like an intern program or an extern program to give them some hands-on. I mean, the premise in my mind of an intern program has always been kind of try before you buy, right? Like test on both sides. It's not just on the employer side, but I mean, it lets you figure out if this is a good place to work and if you're a good fit for our company before we hire you.
That's right. And I think something else that a conversation we've been having quite a bit at TechPoint is you don't have to know if you're able to buy. Like I think in the past,
that's a great point.
The view has been you have to if you hire an intern, you must have a full-time position for them after. And now students need experience and they're able to produce real outcomes so quickly that invest $12,000 and get real outcomes. You don't have to know if you'll have a job available at the end of it. And chances are they're going to knock your socks off and you're going to want to keep them.
Yep.
But if not, the student got experience and you got incredible work out of it. And I see all the time these big consulting companies are winning all of these prizes from OpenAI and Anthropic about how they are the biggest users of AI. Well, let a student loose on that for $12,000.
For sure. Well, and I think that's a really important part. I mean, a lot of times you don't know what you don't know, right? In my old training program, it was being unconsciously incompetent, right? Just to poke fun of it a little bit. But take a flight, hire someone as an intern, bring them in.
That's right.
Try to set them loose on some projects that you're never going to have time to do, right? That might make a difference. And you could see, in some cases, 10x improvements, right? In some of those cases, this $12,000 kid is going to do $500,000 in revenue for you because they change workflows or processes, and that's the part where it's a low risk, low investment lean in.
And we're seeing more and more stories like that. A manufacturing company in Lafayette that I had the opportunity to speak to hired one Purdue student for a summer. He used data coming off of their machines, and it directly impacted the bottom line of the business.
Yeah.
And that is so achievable now in a way that it wasn't years ago.
Well, and I want to encourage employers this way. This is a hot take on my end, but sometimes you say like the concern is I don't have a job for them, so I don't want to take that risk. Sometimes the concern is I don't have the capacity to manage them, or I don't know what projects to have them work on. AI can help with that too.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
Hey, I have this intern starting next week. I'm not really sure what to have them work on. Here's 10 ideas that they might work on. Help me triage these ideas and figure out where they could have the most impact.
That's right.
Like, or if you don't even have the capacity to do that, then have the intern run through that exercise and come to you with, here's 10 things I could do for you. I mean, I think sometimes if you're not willing to take that step, it's just frankly like laziness or the ability to, you have to start. And you have to take a risk and you have to jump in. And so it's, to your point, I don't think there's ever been a better time for this. I really don't.
And something that gives me hope too, and this is taking us a little bit off course, so you can bring me back. But what I love about Indiana and what has kept me here is that we're willing to do the hard work and we don't chase the hype. We do what's right.
That's right.
Even when it's hard. And when I think about AI, there's so much around AI. You can't, I mean, if I was a business leader, if I was leading a company, I would feel the pressure that we saw come through in our report. And what's interesting is when you talk to leaders in the field, you can't go from mom and pop shop on Main Street to deploying agents at scale overnight. There's a maturity path there. And this is something we're working on at TechPoint and CICP to drive clarity around that. But it starts with good data.
Yeah.
That data is the currency.
Yep. Can't measure what you can't, or you can't improve what you can't measure.
Exactly. Yep. And so take an honest look at your systems. If you don't have good, clean data that you trust, throw an intern on it. That's a fantastic intern project, and it will move you further faster. Or partner with an organization like Purdue Data Mine or classes at a higher ed institution where a professor can help guide the students. But be honest about where you are, and like it's not where you start is not always the cool emerging bleeding edge tech. It's getting the fundamentals right, and a student can help with that. And something we're working on at TechPoint is an AI playbook that's designed in this way, where it gives really tactical starting places for individuals based on where they are in maturity.
I see that when I talk to folks. So I teach a lot of people in workshops and cohorts and all kinds of different mechanisms. And a lot of people I talk to, the light bulb moment is when they apply it, right? When they see something that's like,
yes.
I think all of us have experienced the chatbots, right? We've gone to ChatGPT, we've pasted in something, hey, make this sound better, or hey, draft this email for such and such. That's kind of 101, right? That's the basic stuff. When you start to implement some automations into it, and you start to see how it changes your life for good, one of the things that we just went over in a cohort a couple weeks ago was a tool I use personally called Motion. Okay, it's a paid product. I don't know how much it costs, but it basically consolidates my 5 different calendars together. And every morning at 6 a.m., it sends me a daily brief of every meeting I'm going to have with all the talking points for that meeting, which is cool, right? It goes through all the emails I've had with individuals, and it shows me, hey, you're going to have a sit down with Sally. Here's what you should talk to her about. And it just automatically does that based on all of our past exchanges. Well, that's neat, right?
Yeah.
And that's automated, and I do nothing. But the thing that I love more than that is it has an extra feature called the Executive Coach, where it listens in on my calls and takes notes, which is cool. There's a lot of great products out there, Otter and others, that do that same thing. What I love about this one is it gives me critical feedback. It tells me how many times I interrupted the individual. It tells me when I went off tangent. Yes. It tells me, it gives me a score on like my friendliness.
So
I mean,
cool.
and to me, like, that's what I'm paying attention to. And I feel like I'm being better at being a human in conversation.
Yes.
Because this tool is just poking me. And it's funny, I have an executive assistant, and she sits in on calls with me sometimes. And she's super sweet and super awesome and super supportive. But I think probably she would have a hard time telling the boss that he was a jackal, right?
I think there is going to be incredible innovation in this space. I was meeting with a grant maker recently, and he asked, what's a barrier to more work-based learning experiences, more internships, more apprentices? And I said, well, so often the conversation on the workforce side focuses on the individual. I see a systemic barrier in the manager, because managers are being tasked with more and more and more and more. And you hit a breaking point. I saw this at Heritage Group where I was before. So much of our work focused on the manager. And there is so much potential with AI to better coach managers. There's a local company, Awesome People Leaders, that does exactly
People Leaders. That's
exactly
cool.
what you're describing.
That's cool.
It sits within the workflow, but it gives critical feedback in a way that's difficult for a human to deliver.
Yeah.
But this is a space to watch in AI, is how to make humans better humans.
That's right. Well, and I think for me, it's both good for using and teaching and leveraging that technology, but it's also that light bulb for a lot of folks. When you actually start to practically apply this, I mean, at the very basic level, I tell people start voice ChatGPTing instead of Google.
Yeah.
Just to see how your mind shift changes and how you start to think about stuff. When I'm driving to a meeting,
I do the same thing.
I'm on my phone and I voice, I'm going to meet with this person. What should I know about him? How does this, right? And you show up prepared.
Yeah.
And it condenses my research time and it makes my life more efficient. And so for those managers out there that are maybe hesitant to lean in on some of this stuff, I share these anecdotes because just start. There's no wrong answers, just start. The wrong answer is putting your head in the sand and pretending like it's all just going to fly over.
Exactly.
That's the wrong answer.
And this is where an intern can help.
Yeah.
My husband is far from an intern. But
Sure.
last night, as I was preparing for today, I wanted to pull some workforce data over the past 5 years. And I'm using ChatGPT to do that. And he looks at me and he's like, why are you not using research mode? And just having him over my shoulder.
One button. Yep.
Totally changed the outcome of what I got back. And an intern could do that. I mean, seriously, have an intern sit and watch your process flow.
Let me show you how this could work better. Yep.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to close soon, but I do want to lean in one other question here. So let's take this up a step to the state of Indiana. We talked broadly about TechPoint's role is to make the state of Indiana more impactful, right? Or at least to drive the digital economy here. If you had a magic wand, what would you like to see our state invest in right now to help make us the best AI-ready kind of workforce, workplace, education system? Are there any policies or placemaking kind of initiatives? Like, just help me think through that a little bit.
Yeah. There are many people that I think you should ask this question more often, because I would love to hear from other people.
Okay.
In my vantage point, my view of the world, what I would love to see, one, we have to take upskilling seriously.
Okay.
AI is going to disrupt jobs. Amazon is very clear. Distribution centers, they already have the technology to automate 90% of those jobs. I think they say 75.
Sure.
I think it's probably a little higher.
Sure.
The technology exists today. And so I had the opportunity to meet with other workforce development professionals, and I spoke with someone from Ohio, and he said how they're thinking about AI in Ohio, which that's my home state. So we got to be better than Ohio.
Boo.
I'm a Hoosier fan.
Okay,
so,
good.
My dad went to IU, so we grew up Hoosiers in Buckeye
Okay.
territory. So we're very thrilled about that win. But Ohio looked back at like industrial changes that have happened in the past, and they wish that they would have upskilled individuals while they were still in jobs.
When you could.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because now, once they're out of a job, you have psychological barriers. You don't know how to reach those individuals. Once they fall off unemployment insurance, it's a really difficult population to reach and reskill to re-enter the workforce. And so that stuck with me. We got to do better about that in Indiana. And I don't know what the right solution is there, but we have to take upskilling seriously. We have a lot of logistics jobs. We have a lot of distribution centers here.
Manufacturing, advanced manufacturing.
Yeah.
Farming,
How do
all
we
the things.
upskill the workforce while they're still in the job that they're in today?
Instead of trying to train them after they've been let go or they've been downsized, right?
Exactly. So I'm, again, not sure how to do that. But if I could wave a magic wand, that's
what
something
you
I would
do.
focus
Okay.
on.
Well, I think that's great.
And tactically, something I would love to see the state do. Again, world according to Sally.
Sure.
Really incentivizing early in career hiring.
Okay.
We need our graduates, high school, college, coming out to have a fighting shot in the workforce, and they need experience to do that. And so I was talking with an employer, and she's like, wow, I wish we could have gotten a tax credit for hiring 5 interns. That would have totally bumped us up from 1 to 5. And so if there are opportunities to influence tax credits in that way, and that came directly from an employer. Like,
smart.
That's brilliant. I have no influence over that.
Correct. Well,
but I love
maybe you do. Maybe we can get that message out.
That's right.
I love that.
And partner with your TechPoint or South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership. There are lots of Interns for Indiana. It's a program out of Purdue.
Okay.
There are lots of programs in this space. We're working to consolidate all of that into one spot so folks can plug in the right way. But partner with programs that are already doing these things really well.
Okay. We'll close with this. So you and I have known each other for a long time. I honestly believe you're one of the most optimistic leaders I've ever met. Like, you're always smiling. You always have a positive spin on things. You're always encouraged. Yeah. I'm sure part of that is because you're encouraging the younger generation and trying to push them. But just, you seem like a super optimistic human being. So what would you say as you look at Indiana's talent future, Indiana's future, what gives you the most hope? What are you looking at and saying, wow, I'm really excited?
It's our students, without a doubt. And I look at the Extern program, and I look at the alumni that are now leading things. Luke and Ian and Mark at Lilly. Mark's on the central AI team at Lilly. He was an extern. Like, I knew when he was a kid. And
that is awesome.
He is now leading things, just like Luke and Ian at Lilly and Kate at Innovate Map, a leading product there for many companies. And I look at these individuals that started as students, took a bet on Extern in our earliest days.
Yeah, when you were still figuring it out.
Exactly. Michael Hockerman, and have built their careers now in Indiana. And that gives me hope.
And you've touched hundreds, if not thousands of kids at this point, right? And so they're all and even if they don't stay in Indiana, they're going and having a dramatic impact on the world.
Exactly.
And that's a really there's reason to be hopeful and optimistic based on that, I'm sure.
And there are hundreds, thousands of them on college campuses now that are digital natives, are using AI every day. And I am confident that when we look back 10 years from now, I know it's impossible to plan 10-year increments, but when we look back 10 years from now and our AI initiatives and programs succeeded, It's because we focused on the fundamentals and we leveraged young talent to do it, students to do it.
Well, man, that's so good because that's what the McKinsey report talked about. It said, focus on the regional side of this stuff, build an ecosystem
Yes.
and watch it grow, right? It's like watering a garden in some ways. And so, I think the more we lean in now, it's compounding interest, right? It's only going to make dramatic impacts in the future.
Compounding interest is the perfect way to talk about that. And I think when we started Extern, we were focused strictly on tech companies, pure tech companies, and tech product, tech service, a few tech enabled, but largely those tech companies. Now, every company should be hiring an Extern.
Because, and we talked about, I'm on one of the advisory boards for one of the schools, and I've heard you talk about this also on a stage before about how I think we got it wrong decades ago having a computer class in college or in high school.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be an AI class. It should be baked in to what we're doing, right?
In the states that are already ahead, they have it horizontal. Like AI, technology, digital literacy, digital citizenship is built in across every layer of the curriculum. We're moving that way.
Well, good. So how do people follow you? TechPoint.org,
yes.
Right? And you guys have the index with a ton of great content there. What else? Like how else do people find you and stay up with you? How do they come to your events? Talk to both students, maybe even parents, and then also employers, because I really want to double click on the employer piece. I've been an employer partnering with TechPoint. We've used the Extern program. We've hired people from it.
Yeah.
I couldn't recommend it higher. And so give me the couple-minute view here of where we should plug in.
Perfect. TechPoint is the one-stop shop where you want to go. TechPoint.org. That's where you'll see the index, like you mentioned. That's
storytelling.
Yeah. Aggregation of tech news. Also, our events are there. So we have different networks that individuals can plug into. I think the most relevant one for this group, whether you are leading a business or you're a student, is the AI Innovation Network. My colleague Chelsea Linder has built that. And
She's
Mary
done an awesome job.
It's incredible. And there are over 500 members of that now. Join the AI Innovation Network. And then keep pace on our events. So we have an event coming up on February 3rd because we know that it's not just technology. Jim mentioned this, there's a drive for the human connection side of this all. So we'll have Connect events throughout the year. February 3rd is our first Connect event in 2026. So follow us on LinkedIn. I'd say that is a perfect place to
stay up to date
and get plugged into the different events. They're always promoted on LinkedIn. So follow TechPoint on LinkedIn. And then personally, Sally Reasoner, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I don't post that much, but if you have questions or
you're the
interested,
behind-the-scenes person that makes the stuff happen.
That's right.
If you're a student, maybe Sally's your contact because she loves all students.
That's right. And listen to this podcast. Parents, if you're listening to this, send it to your student in high school or college. Have them watch Jason's YouTube videos where he's actually breaking down the tools he's using, the tech that's being used. That is how people stay up to date and turn learning into practice.
And for employers, I'll speak directly to you as a employer partner of TechPoint. Like, go get an intern, please.
$12,000,
right? It's like the biggest no-brainer of all time. And hopefully, legislators, if you're listening, you heard Sally's point about helping to subsidize that program a little bit, just to get kids plugged into some of these partners, right? Let's get them in jobs early. Let's get them making a material impact early, and let's keep them. And it's a win-win-win-win-win. I think everybody wins, literally.
Never a better opportunity than right now.
Awesome.
We've never had a competitive advantage like we do today.
Well, thank you for your time. It's been an awesome discussion.
Thank you.
And we'll just keep plowing forward on this podcast and sharing the great news and work of TechPoint.
Sounds great. Thanks,
Cheers.
Jason.
Bye. All right, y'all. That is a wrap on this conversation with Sally. If this episode was helpful, the best way you can support the show is simple. Like it, follow the podcast, and subscribe on YouTube. Every one of those signals helps us bring more of these conversations to more people. You can find the full video, clips, and upcoming episodes on my YouTube channel. Just search Jason Manship, Jayson, Manship, just like it sounds, or visit jasonmanship.com. And don't forget, every week I dig deeper with practical, real-life examples on that YouTube channel. Next episode, I'm talking to Brian McGinnis. Brian is a leading IP attorney at one of the most prestigious law firms in Indy. He and I are going to break down privacy, ownership, and AI hurdles for the law profession. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you for spending your time with us. Onward.